Music to the ears of everyone who loves pool. This is the biggie. And who better to have alongside me in the commentary box than a former US Open champion from 19 years ago now, Jeremy Jones.
Well, thank you, Phil, and so excited to be here this week. Definitely deserving. Carlos starts off our tournament and thinking about that guy and, going for a 2-9 early. You know, tournament play, of course, still in the prime of his career. Maybe the most consistent Filipino in history, really, for tournament play. Didn't quite have all the titles of Efren or Bustamante, maybe. Maybe he does, but it's just a guy that's always in there come the end of the event. Funny you say about his opponent, a tennis coach. I'm sure at some time tried to play professionally. That's normally how it goes.
It really is a big moment for him. It would be a big moment if he was playing out in the sticks on table 24 against someone he'd never heard of, but coming up against the title holder under the spotlight of table 1. That's the magic of the US Open. We saw it last year.
Yeah, absolutely. Got here yesterday mid-afternoon, and every player, you know, including the top players from the guys that are here trying to really gain some experience. Everyone seems super excited about the event. There's going to be a lot of stories as we move on this week that I'm sure many are aware of, and we'll get into that as the event goes on. But Carlo, just like the other players, going to start off a little nervous, even though he's a big favorite here. Settle himself in. A little on the wrong side of the 5 here. Shouldn't be too much of a problem. Carlo not afraid to move the cue ball. Probably 3 rails into a similar position that the cue ball's in now. And Carlo, what a comeback he made in that final last year. Yap was just playing pretty much perfect every match, and it's a player we'll talk about. He's hot right now since he's been in the States. He has 2 nice wins. Just won a ranking event at the Sandcastle this last weekend, Aloysius Yap. Carlo fell a little straight, so he's going to have to shoot the 8 from near the rail with the cue ball. Now this is a little preference if he wants to come back across just so he can shoot the 8 with a little more authority. A lot of players will do that rather than kind of roll the ball a little on the 50.
Yeah, just a grain of doubt in the mind. But there shouldn't have been. So that was all very nice. One mistake from his opponent, and Carlo Biado runs the table. He leads 1-0. He's tried to become the first player to defend this US Open title since a certain Shane Van Boening, who won it 3 times in succession. 2012, 2013, and 2014. What an achievement that is, Jeremy. I mean, you know how tough it is to win it on 1 occasion, let alone 3 consecutive.
Yeah, absolutely. In '99, I got to the final to lose and wondered if I'd ever even sniff, the final at all, much less win it. And Shane's done so many amazing things in this tournament. Such a grueling tournament as well.
As always, while the referee is putting the balls back on the table, we will keep you right up to date with some scores from this very busy arena. I can tell you the first score I'm going to give you. Ralph Souquet, who was in first this morning when they allowed the players into practice. He practiced for an hour. Really hard to get his game in shape. And the great German player has taken the first rack from Justin Stock on table 4.
Yeah, and our new break format, I think really, Ralph's not a guy that has a weak break by any means, but doesn't quite keep up with the top guys. But he's such a tactician that you got to think he's pretty motivated with this new break rule. I think you're going to see some of those veteran players like Ralph make some noise this week.
So many different news items to tell you about as the week goes on. We won't be dissecting this yet because it's a little too early. But at the end of this tournament, 2 more players from Team USA and Team Europe for the forthcoming Mosconi Cup will be known. Then it's up to the captains to provide their 2 wildcard selections. We do know already, of course, that Joshua Filler is going to compete for Europe and Shane Van Boning is going to compete for the USA. No surprises there.
No, and no surprises the way they played this year. Been pretty incredible play by both those guys, and we're going to definitely see some drama when it comes to that Mosconi Cup points. Like Phil says, as the tournament grows, that drama will grow, and we're going to see a couple players, I think, from both sides really making a race towards those points, and it's going to be pretty interesting.
This is all very routine right now.
I think he expected that cue ball to check a little bit. Yeah, and get a little more towards the middle of the table. And like most players, like I said earlier, probably a little jitters for Carlo. I mean, he's the defending champion, of course, trying to win it again in first match of the tournament, plus starting the tournament. See if he rolls forward or take a cut on the 9 on the side to get a little 2-0 lead.
Well, the 9 ball into that centre pocket did not fall in cleanly, but it's in nevertheless. So Carlo Biado, the man who has his name on this trophy, the latest edition in 2021, and started the 2022 tournament in ideal style. He leads Dalibor Nikolin 2-0. Yeah, just a word on those Mosconi Cup places. For the USA, you've got the likes of Oscar Dominguez, Shane Walford, Nick de Leon, Skylar Woodward, of course, and Billy Thorpe all battling it out. As for Europe, high in the rankings, looking for that 2nd and 3rd qualifying place, you've got Francisco Sanchez-Ruiz, Mario He, Albin Auschen, Alex Gazakis, Jason Shaw. The list is lengthy, and this is the end product to be at Bally's Las Vegas on the famed Strip from November the 30th to December the 3rd, as the USA and Europe do battle again. Jeremy, given your responsibilities, the butterflies must have started already.
No, absolutely. I've been super excited. Before I left to go to Philadelphia, I was there for a few days. Talked about it with my wife, how excited I was to see this U.S. Open, see things get going. And I think that list is a little deeper for the Americans than people think. I think not only points-wise, got some other great players that we maybe haven't mentioned so much here this week. But I think as time goes on, we'll mention them.
Well, this is a segue. Dalibor Nikolin's favourite player to watch is Earl Strickland. And I'm afraid he's one of the absent friends here. Recently contracted COVID, and although he's testing negative apparently, he doesn't feel too well, doesn't feel up to playing, and so consequently he's not involved, which is a great shame, because he's one of the legends of the US Open.
Yeah, he certainly is, and unfortunate, of course, what happened last year with COVID and involving Earl, and then now this year with the US Open. So hopefully Earl's recovering nicely and gets back on his feet. Speaking of tennis, and you mean I'm not sure how much tennis you know about, Phil. I feel like you know about every sport, but I lived in Jacksonville, Florida, for a couple years in the late '90s, and I went in the pool room and kept watching this tall man hit balls, and I'm like, I know this guy, because I was a tennis player in high school, believe it or not, and the guy pulled his sweatshirt off, and he had a Davis Cup shirt, and it was Todd Martin. It hit me as soon as I saw him. It was Todd Martin, the guy kept running out too, which was really interesting to me.
Well, if you pardon the tennis pun here, that 2-ball attempt wasn't ace, was it? Not ace at all. Double fault.
Yeah, I like him shooting the shot, though, even though it didn't work out. He's got to get some time at the table when he can. Okay, this is a little funny on the slick table. A little difficult to control going between the 4-9 with the side pocket there, and a little difficult to check the cue ball coming one rail above the 9. I think he'll try to go slowly between the 4-9. I think, anyways. He may go up and down. Yeah, that hook on the cue ball. See, when you get into the cue ball on the slick table, you're not going to hold your line very well. So it's, for Carlo's sake, it's maybe something to get a hold of early. That's what a lot of these top players will do. Checking out the table when they're such a big favorite. Should hit this.
We've said this 1,000 times, but I'll say it again. When it comes to kicking, the Filipinos take some beating, don't they?
Yeah, it's some of the best overall. But I'll tell you, that's something that I give a lot more credit to this generation than they were getting just a few years ago. Guys would put out the jump cue a lot, but now it seems like all the players really have every part of the game, it seems like, and getting better at it. Nice shot here. Pretty perfect safety with cue ball right on the rail. Looks like the 8's kind of a big blocker for the natural 2-rail kick at this pink 4. May have to go behind the 6 here. Not sure if he may elevate. No, if he feels like he can get 2 rails at it. I don't think he can get behind it. Oh, he's kicking softly. Oh, beauty. And when you have that cluster like that or a ball near, that soft kick is a lot of times the right shot.
In snooker, the great player at getting out of snookers and not just escaping, but escaping perfectly is Mark Selby, the multiple world champion. And I was commentating on a tournament recently where he showed his magic in that department and actually drew the parallel between Selby on a snooker table and the Filipinos on a pool table. And I think that's the highest compliment you can pay anyone.
Yeah, well, all these Filipino players, they have a piece of the Godfather, the magician, Efren Reyes, and he's taught all those players so much. Okay, decent there, not a bad intentional foul. I think he's tied it up to where, I don't know if Carlo, he's going to play him right back behind the purple 4. So Nikolin, he's going to have to take a 2-rail kick at this 4-ball here shortly. Oh, look at this shot. Even advancing it a little more. Look how he cuts off the upper part of the table. And that's just going a bit further with it, Phil.
Brutal.
Very. And that was definitely by design.
Dalibor Nikolin's favourite film is The Colour of Money.
It is pretty good, by the way.
Well, it's a wonderful film.
On table 2, Christina Tkach getting on the board against Henrik Larsson. So now on 2 fouls, I don't think you're going to see a 3 foul with an open table. Carlo will choose to run the table, I believe. You know, it's been, 2 months since the European Open, and saw a lot of great pool there, but you got to figure the guys have tuned in a little bit better on the break shot. Even though it's difficult, it's never going to be something that's just all the time, but you got to believe they're going to get better at it. Watch this 3 rails with the cue ball, or maybe he's just drawing it behind the 8. Oh, he did go 3 rails, sliding to the 4th rail.
Masterful pool table geometry and judgment of speed. These early matches are all race to 9s, and in a couple of pots' time, Carlo Biado will be a third of the way home.
And I don't think his opponent has pocketed a ball in this match yet.
The Serbian very much in at the deep end, taking on the defending US Open champion. And Carlo Biado doesn't look like he's going to fall victim to an almighty shock at the moment, does he? He leads by 3 racks to 0. Now, don't forget, if you access the Matchroom Pool YouTube channel, you can see the action over on Table 2 as the day progresses. As Jeremy told us, it is Christina to catch against Henrik Larsson. To catch one of the finest female players around. And Henrik Larsson, for a number of years now, has been one of the leading wheelchair players in the game of pool.
Yeah, well, I don't know Mr. Larsson very well, but I could tell that. Difficult layout here for Christina if you're watching the YouTube channel. And that's a lot of what this new break rule is. I mean, the guys are going to figure out, and ladies obviously, are going to figure out how to make balls. But the random of the racks and the layouts, the variety, that's the key.
Before this rack unfolds, let me tell you about Alex Pagialian. He's 3-0 up, going nicely against Harshit Kadia from India. That's the other thing about this tournament, Jeremy. It is so cosmopolitan. They've come from all over the place to be here.
Yeah, you could, 256. You could probably get 512 in this event pretty easily.
Well, talking about that, tickets today go on sale for the European Open in Fulda next year. It's August the 8th to the 13th at the Hotel Esperanto, which hosted us recently for the inaugural European Open. And the reason I say that is because the field, 256, is already sold out for August next year.
Yeah, lovely crowd and a lot of great players there in Europe. And we saw more of them, I thought, even at the European Open. A few more Polish players that we don't normally see. Of course, a lot of the hometown German players that were so impressive, I thought. And really maybe put a little heat on the UK Open as far as the British players to step it up a little bit. A lot of great British players, but man, I was really impressed with the German, the guys that you don't know the names of. And now Carlo has fallen straight in on the rail. May go rail first here, we'll see. And this one's very difficult, up off the rail quite a bit.
And it really is amazing in cue sports, in pool and in snooker, that if a shot like that is going to be missed, obviously it can be missed both ways, but far more often than not, it's when a player undercuts.
Yeah, judging the the slick table starting the match. That's why you saw him really take his time, even though, you know, in a favorable position, not only score-wise, but just overall in this match, you got to feel like he's in a good spot. But you're right. Very rarely they overcut that shot going rail first. So I think our first ball made for Dalibor, and now he's got a little bit of a difficult shot on the pink 4. Natural position, 2 rails behind the 6.
I believe the folks down in Boca Raton in Florida call him Nick. But the way things are going, you have to wonder whether he's going to nick a rack here.
Well, what happens is for a lot of these guys is, you know, they don't realize that the ball's cut a little easier on the slick felt. And even if you do realize it, if you're not used to it, it's still very hard to pull the trigger aiming a little heavier than what you're used to. All right, he's going to kill this ball. Oh, no, he's going up and down. Wow, that was surprising. Didn't expect that, actually. I thought he would roll that ball a little bit more and just come 1 rail above the 6. A lot of speed into that. Now he's got a tough one. May cross this. There's really no position unless he rolls it very softly. May cross bank this ball.
So can Nikolin stroke this in and potentially break his duck? Yes, he can, in terms of potting the ball. Oh, but not the best position.
No, pretty impressive stroke there, really kind of unloading a little bit. I didn't expect that as much, but very accurate, very straight. Showed a little power there, and I think he may have a piece of this. We'll see. No, he had to go rail first as well. Not going to leave anything easy for Carlo. Carlo will level out here and try and roll this 7 in.
A scrappy end to the rack, but there's no way through for Nikolin.
No, I think he's got to take a shot at trying to kick this ball in cross corner, just kicking above to the long rail, above the 9. He could try to play some type of kick safety, but the thing about going aggressive here is you could still not leave him much of a shot. I mean, yeah, I think this is correct. Go over there, try to size it up, get a feel for it. And I know Carlo just watching him so much, and of course I know the man, but I think he starts off a lot of tournaments like a lot of the players, even though, you know, defending champion and one of the best in the world, a little nervous. That excitement we were talking about. All right, left it kind of odd. I don't think he really has a great offensive play. He could cut it to the upper right. Does it go to the upper left? Yeah, it must, because he's not taking much time.
The channel was there, he was on the walk, and now it should be 4-0. Of course it is. Well, it wasn't a clean rack by any means, but Carlo Biado adds the fourth to each of the first three. He leads Dalibor Nikolin 4-0. Now what about these other scores? Some fine players involved in the first session of matches. Ralph Suke 3-0 up on Justin Stock. Alex Pagulayan now 4-0 up on Harshit Kadir. Ko Pin Yi, tremendous player from Chinese Taipei, 2-1 up on Ben Crawley. Max Lechner, possible Mosconi Cup choice, he's 4-1 up on Chad Bazinet. Badr Alawadi, 2-1 up on Jakub Savitsky. Rainer Lahr from Estonia, 4-1 up on Jeff Trader from here in the USA. And a terrific player from Poland, Mieszko Fortunski, he's 4-0 up on Mark Sala. Also, Wojciech Szewczyk, yet another Polish talent, 4-0 up on Juan Jose Rosa. And Alex Kazakis very much in the Mosconi Cup conversation. The Greek is 3-1 up on Ricardo Kakamo. Must tell you this scoreline though. Jason Robichaud from Canada, 3-1 up on Billy Thorpe. You don't want to be sent to the one-loss side of the draw immediately.
No, not at all. I mean, it's going to happen to one of the, the favorites. That's just how this game goes, and it could happen to more than one. And he's been playing some nice pool though, as he's gotten back on the scene for the last 2 months.
Two more big names I feel duty bound to tell you about. David Alcady, 4-0 up on Brad Guthrie from Canada. And Chris Melling, he's 4-1 up on Samuel Disser.
Now Carlo with the thin 2-ball. Gonna have a little speed on the cue ball. Really holds that pause at the cue ball a long time. Kind of takes dead aim, you may say. Cue ball get lost? No, it's available. Probably goes for this. And the thing is, you don't want to really vary your game early too much, just because you're a favorite, you're at 4-0. But there is some value on some things, getting a feel for how the table's banking. Those things are going to come up later. And what I'm getting at is, if he's playing a third-round match against a player he's very threatened by, or second-round match, he may play more of the safety there, even though the guys are very aggressive. But I think, like I said, there is some value trying to get a feel for the table when you can.
Yeah, especially in his position, because no one's got any guarantees about who's going to play on table one. But as the defending champion, you would think he would be playing more than one match here on this particular table.
Well, he's got plans for it, Phil. So, and like I said, I think he's, I can't say for sure, but I think he's one of the most consistent Filipino players, plus players, period. It seems like tournament, day in, day out, week in, week out. He's like a guy that just doesn't fall off of his game very often, or very much. Difficult 3-ball here. Long ways from it. You wouldn't want to really elevate and try and bang the 3 around the table. You got to figure he's probably going to go at this. The same thing for, we'll call him Nick, since his buddy calls him Nick. But same thing for these guys to get a little time at the table. I mean, he's an underdog here, but win or lose, he's got to play more matches. With the new schedule, which I love, if I was a player, I'd certainly appreciate that. And a great shot there, but these guys are going to be back today, win or lose. Either shot here, the cut or the bank, have a lot of value. I think he probably goes for the bank, tries to get behind the purple 5 with the cue ball. Oh, he played the safety. Nice shot. Cue ball didn't quite get where he wanted. Good speed, a little off at the line. Speed and wow. How good a cueing is that, Phil?
Well, at the end of this championship on Saturday night, we might not see a better shot than that. Okay, in terms of context, he's totally in command of this match. He can open his shoulders and go for it. But that was exhibition stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize shooting from that far away, even though the pink 4 wasn't that far from the pocket, to put that much speed and keep that accuracy, very hard to do. And another thing is the guys just don't do that very often. That's not something you're going to be practicing in the practice room or prior to the match. Just shows how talented these players are.
"4-0 becomes 5-0, and that means Carlo Biado is more than halfway to getting his title defence underway in very fine style, maybe via whitewash. We will soon find out. Henrik Larsson 3-1 up on Christina Tkach over on table 2 at the moment. Elliot Sanderson from the UK, he's 3-0 down to Scott Haas from here in the USA. Ralph Suke now 4-0 up on Justin Stock. Alex Pagulayan, legend of the game, 5-0 up on Harshit Kadir. Kopin Yi now 4-1 up on Ben Crawley. 4-2 Max Lechner over Chad Bazinet. There's Christina on table 2, not having the best of starts. Terrific young player from Spain, Jonas Suter Camino, he's 2-1 up on Joe Spence. Slow going there in relation to some of the other tables. Mieszka Fortunski 5-0 up now on Mike Salla. And Wojciech Szewczyk is leading the race to be the first player finished. He's 6-0 up on Juan Jose Rosa. Also on the 6 mark, David Halkady and Chris Melling.
Kisses on the cue ball. We'll talk about that all week. Of course, the guy's playing a firm cut with the box, the break box, back in the game. Get a little 9-ball movement at times as well. The thing is, the guys are playing the 1 on the side for the most part, so you just always get variety with a random rack. And now I believe his first ball in hand of the match.
It is Jeremy. Love to see him run out.
Yeah, ball in hand, of course. Don't know the man at the table really, but ball in hand is usually something you can makes you shake off those misses. So nothing too difficult here. He doesn't want to end up on the rail. Huge mistake with ball in hand now. He's got a shot on the 3, but he's going to have to play the 4 from some distance. You could see he was not too happy. And really kind of curious why he drew the ball across when he could have rolled to the bottom rail and then up. See the nerves. A little quick there with the stroke. Got himself a little out of position. Looks like Dalibor has a bit of a quicker tempo. See a little bit shorter strokes overall. like to have that shot back, but that miss was very much promoted by that position play with ball in hand. I guess the 9's a little too much in the way to play a real first shot on the pink 4, so like Phil talked about, we'll probably see another fine kick shot. Filipino player Carlo Biado. They just rarely miss the kicks.
It's scary. It really is scary.
And what happens is just of course it gets you out of so many situations, but the long-term investment of how these guys hardly ever give up ball in hand is huge when you talk about a full season of playing pool.
Well, it was a great escape from Biado, but a really good pot next.
Yeah, and a little smoother there, a little longer through the ball, and a lot calmer stroke. Now trying to find a pocket for the purple 5. It does slide by the 8, but nothing easy because he's got to hit that very light to hold position on the 6. This is the type of shot you would like to hit a little firmer to make it slide a little more. Yeah, that's not going to get it.
Yeah, this time he's not covered it, and there's a clear channel to pot it.
I'll tell you, very impressed with Larson on the YouTube channel, playing Tkach. Every ball, maximum effort.
When you see the European Championships, and they always have the wheelchair divisions in that, 8, 9 ball, 10 ball, that kind of stuff. He's won many, many medals.
You can see Carlo just swinging the arm there as he walks, so not totally settled. He's going to follow this. It'll hook a little bit off the second rail. Nice shot coming right at the 9.
Yeah, I think even though he's completely in control of the match, he's not been entirely happy. You're right, Jeremy. I think it would be incorrect to say he's agitated, but mildly irritated. Certainly with a few shots that didn't quite work out correctly. But the scoreline certainly working out correctly. He leads 6-0. A nice untroubled workout for the title holder. Lots of one-sided matches out there. David Arcady 7-0 up now on Brad Guthrie. Alex Kazakis 7-1 up on Ricardo Kakamo. Chris Melling 7-1 up also against Samuel Disser. I can tell you Billy Thorpe has recovered from 3-1 down against Jason Robichaud to 3-3. What a great name this is. Payne McBride. He could be a professional golfer with a name like that. Payne McBride on table 19. He's 3-1 up on the South African Jason Theron. And on the hill, the first to the hill, Mieszko Fortunski from Poland, 8-0 up on Mike Saller. By the way, Rainer Lahr is playing at the moment, the Estonian, 6-2 up against Jeff Trader from the USA. And I'll tell you a story about Estonian Q Sports after Biado has broken off. Not just broken off well. The story I'm going to tell you, Q Sports are held in very high regard in Estonia. We know about Dennis Grabber and Mark Maggi and of course Rainer Lahr now coming on the scene. But they've also got some good snooker players, and one of them has just turned professional, Andreas Petrov. And he played in the first round of the recent British Open on TV against the defending champion Mark Williams And who was there to support him? The Estonian ambassador to the UK. Again, underlining just how popular cue sports have become in that country.
Yeah, and I think that's going to grow in many countries. I think you're going to see a lot of your regular residents start to watch the games of all the different cue sport games. And it's just going to continue to grow. I think, you know, Carlo, we talked about him maybe going after a couple shots that he may not go after. That can get you a little unsettled. But I just think he's one of those guys that start out the tournament a little more nervous. And I think that's all players to an extent. So the one thing he doesn't want is some strokes that he doesn't like. He doesn't want those to creep in, you know, get any kind of doubt early in his mind. He's going to get through this match, obviously, but it's going to get tougher pretty quick. And that's what I say. I don't think he's gotten his timing down. Carlos sometimes, you know, he doesn't, you know, have the longest stroke in the world, right? So he can easily get a little quick. Going for the cross corner bank here. Running the cue ball.
It's not just dynamite, it's demoralising. Just when Dalibor Nikolin thinks he might get back to the table, the Filipinos work their magic. Or this Filipino does.
Yeah, in a lot of tournaments, I don't know how it happens really, but his name really isn't mentioned a whole lot until it seems like he's down there to win it. And even in other tournaments, he's won a World Nineball Championship, and many times a deep contestant in that event. Seems like he kind of does his own thing and just not discussed a lot until, like I said, the end of the event.
And although it's a much smaller event than this, Carlo Biado is actually looking for a US Open double this year because he won the US Open 8-ball back in April. So what about that race to record the first victory? Is it over yet? I'm just looking down my list of scores here. Number of people now on the hill, but no result yet recorded.
Well, you had mentioned Fortunsky, and you know how much I love his game, and he's made some runs in some of these big events this year. It just seems like something at the end, semifinal or quarterfinal, you know, gets the best of him. Still expect him to be down there. Had a nice U.S. Open last year before I believe he got beat Hill in a final 16 match, if I remember correctly. But another Polish player that's probably going to make some noise.
And as you said that, Jeremy, he's the first player to record a victory in this year's US Open. Mieszko Fortuński beats Mike Salla 9-0.
Much more of a connection on the rack there from Carlo. He liked that one a lot better. You can see a little smile on his face. And a great smile it is, I'll tell you. Got a bank here, maybe a thin cut on the 2. Doesn't mind going for it, so he's going to bank this and draw his ball, it looks like. Now he's got to have great speed because he's coming underneath the 9 to play the 3 up top. Oh, he can get above it. Wow, really cheated that.
Chris Melling also on victory lane swiftly. He's beaten Samuel Disser 9-1 over on table 25.
Carlo, like a lot of the Filipino players, love that angle to move the cue ball a little bit. Philippines, if you don't know a ton about them, the conditions that a lot of those players. Now the newer guys, it's a little different. The younger generation, they got a lot of great pool rooms there now, but really played under tough conditions, so they learned to play with an angle, very difficult to draw the ball, and to learn how to run the cue ball around the table.
It is one-way traffic, much like the expressway that runs from the great city of Philadelphia all the way here to Atlantic City. It was one-way traffic yesterday. There were so many people coming back from this lovely spot back into town that it was backed up, the traffic on one side, but on the other it was very free, and we had a lovely journey in. Can't speak highly enough of this place. It is the perfect location for the US Open, a tournament that began life in 1976.
Yeah, approaching 50 years here in just a few, and if you just want to think about the history of pocket billiards, American pocket billiards, just look at the list of the names that have won this event. And for many years it was difficult for international players to win the US Open. It was far and few between, but of course, like the rest of the world, of the pool world, that's changed a bit, and now you may consider them overall favorites.
The first Filipino to win was Efren Reyes, 1994.
Yeah, that title eluded him for about some 14 or 15 years. Now Carlo dialing in that one in the side. He's got a difficult two in the side. Anytime you're coming in at that angle, can't put much speed on it, but I think he'll attack. And I guess Alex Pagulayan was the next Filipino to win.
Yeah, well, David Alcades won 9-0 against Brad Guthrie. In terms of capturing the title, yeah, you're right about Pagulayan.
Yeah, another great Jose Perica, who got beaten in the finals, I think, 3 times in the US Open. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Difficult. You got to be perfect coming in at that speed and that angle. So we'll get to see Dalibor at least more time at the table. I believe Christina Tkachuk tied that match at 3 apiece on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, she has. And having been 3-0 down, Elliot Sanderson leads Scott Haas 4-3.
Well, it doesn't take long for Sanderson to put some racks together. And definitely play at a nice pace. And a nice opener there from Dalibor. And he's got another difficult shot on the 3. I think it does barely pass the 4, maybe not. No, it doesn't. So he's going to have to play some type of safety, or maybe the cross corner bank here. He's going to play the safety. Smart shot. And what he's doing for himself here, of course, trying to win some games, get something started, but get himself some time back at the table. Not going for a silly shot on the 3.
We've talked extensively about Carlo Biado winning here last year. He also won the World Nineball Championship in 2017. And from various games around the world, he's brought 4 gold medals back to the Philippines. So he's a very popular figure in his home country.
Well, super hard guy not to like as well. Another solid hit on the 3 ball. A little fortunate. Tried to create a little luck.
Yeah, he won the gold medal in the 9-ball singles at the World Games in 2017, and he's also won 3 gold medals in the Southeast Asian Games.
Yeah, I think another gold medalist from this year's Southeast Asia Games, another player to keep an eye on, and one of my favorites to watch, Johan Chua, here in the field this week. And he may not get talked about much here early just because his international play. He likes to stay near the Philippines, so hasn't been out as much, but man, what a talent.
And before this match comes to an end, and we'll be saying this a lot this week, and rightfully so, the work behind the scenes to get this tournament up and running has been prodigious. And so Emily Fraser from Matchroom Multisport and her team, again, have worked so hard to put this show together. And they must be full of pride, because last year was a massive success, and you get the feeling this year is going to be even more so.
Yeah, I think they've improved their game from last year, and last year was awesome. I'll tell you, the players see it, and to be frank, when I hear a player with any complaint, really, and they're not terrible complaints, I just kind of remind them, look around. You don't think these guys are working, trying to make it, as premium as possible, and it's easily shaken off by the players. They get it. But yeah, great setup here in AC, Atlantic City.
And all of the people who work for Matchroom, the likes of Jake Aspey and Matt Lynch, Emily herself, of course, and Phoebe Millam, they work so hard in every single event, and not just at the event, but beforehand, to get all of the strands of the tournament together.
Yeah, they're a highly stressed job. 256 players they're trying to make happy, along with vendors, of course, fans, very, very important, the viewers, trying to complete the show, and they do one heck of a job at it.
Yeah, and 4 very demanding prima donna commentators.
That's right.
By the way, next up in the commentary position, Michael McMullen will be taking over alongside Carl Boyes. Our next match is Koping Chung against Robert Blackiston.
Yeah, I'm interested to see Chung play. He's one of my favorites to watch, but I do think he struggled a little bit this year, at times, and you can see it in the young man's face at times that he's just, like I said, a few big moments. He had some struggles the World Cup, even though they did make a run. It was really Koping Yi that really came with it most of the time.
So we could possibly be very close to the end of match 1. Before we get right to the end of it, your prediction as to who is going to lift the silverware on Saturday?
Well, I think Shane's in a great place. Hate to be that common denominator picking Shane a lot, but I love his game when he's playing a lot. He's just going to be a difficult guy to beat. I think last year he could have gotten his 6th U.S. Open, to be honest with you. I think Skylar's in a great place as well. I think new equipment, played very well at the Sandcastle. A little dedication on the practice table. But Americans I like, of course. But Yap, I think Yap's going to be right in there as well.
Well, maybe this match is going to be elongated. What an opportunity for Dalibor Nikolin to avoid being on the receiving end of a clean sheet.
Yeah, and get to break the balls as well. Again, Dalibor and Carlo will be back with the new schedule that Matchroom has put together. I think the players love it. So we'll have half the field playing today, a couple matches each, and then get back to the other half of the field tomorrow.
Oh, what a shame. That was purely and simple nerves.
Yeah, and again, his miss has been the overcut. Talked about it earlier, maybe not realizing, especially when you have a bit of a quicker tempo. Ball's cut a little easier out on the slick equipment.
but surely this one will not be missed. Biado, ever the pro, wanted to win 9-0. Badly wanted to win 9-0.
Yeah, and he's got a little cut on this 9, so just got to have a little concern on the cue ball. But I agree, he wanted to end this match and get on with what, you know, he could prepare for the next. But
well done indeed to Dalibor Nikolin. The whitewash is now a thing of the past. He's trying to have a smile, but the defending champion remains stony-faced. The game face of Carlo Biado is on. We can't imagine there's going to be a full-scale comeback on, but he didn't want to lose a single rack, and he has done. 8-1 it is. So Wojciech Szewczyk has beaten Juan Jose Rosa 9-1. Henrik Larsson and Christina Tkach on table 2, which you can watch on the Matchroom Pool YouTube channel, still locked together at 3-3. Elliot Sanderson has now won 5 racks in succession to lead Scott Haas 5-3. Ralph Suke on the hill against Justin Stock. Suke 8-0 up. Alex Pagulayan, another veteran with a vast array of titles. He's 7-1 up against Harshit Kadir. Copen Yi on the hill as well. 8-2 up on Ben Crawley.
all right, he's made the 1. Nice shot on the 2. Tall man, so the stretch on the 2 shouldn't be too bad. May need the crutch or the extension. I see BJ Ussery of Carolina's practicing. A very, very solid player and a very good tournament player in my opinion. Makes, you know, kind of the grinder type, makes a lot of solid decisions. He gets comfortable, you know, pocketing the ball with the, you know, get comfortable with the table. Wouldn't be surprised that he puts a few dampers in people's week. He's got to kind of float this a little bit. I'd probably just come 1 rail to our right side of the 9, trying to gain a little angle on the 3 to come across for the 4. Could spin this with a right English trying to come between the 6-9. I don't really see the value in it for a little, something that could be a little risky. I like just coming straight between where the cue ball and the 9's at now. But yeah, he tried to go between them, the 6-9, and it had a little risk in there doing so, and now snookered behind the 9. Christina Tkach with her first lead in that match at 4-3. So she's won 3 in a row.
Playing the jump shot, jumping over the 9. Unable to pop the 3 though, and it is in open play. Is that the beginning of the end?
Yeah, it looks like he can naturally get around the 5, so got to maybe contend with the 9 a little bit, maybe come towards the 8 with the cue ball to get position on the pink 4. But most likely, you know, besides this first shot, if he gets through this first shot, is he going 1 rail between the 6 and 9? You would think he would stun this, but no. And like I said, he's still a little quick with the tempo, you know. In my opinion anyway, so I think still a little nerves here early for Carlo.
And he's been very fortunate there. Look at this, the cue ball getting trapped in the jaws of the middle pocket. Now normally you don't want that to happen, but here he could have saved his bacon because the 9 is right in the way of the 3.
Yeah, it's a second consecutive jump shot here. This one here is not going to slow Carlo down, but if you notice that last replay on that 3, how quickly Carlo looked up at the shot, kind of knew the delivery wasn't its best. You know, we had beautiful weather here last year. Of course, it was about a month earlier, the event, but still pretty nice weather. A little chillier this week in Atlantic City, but going to be a lot of sunshine, and a lot of sunshine on somebody come Saturday night, excuse me.
Now there is a Texan talking. A little chilly. It's like the summer for us back in the UK, this. Blue skies and temperatures in the 60s.
Yeah, I like it about 80, I guess. 80 year-round would be perfect now. He's falling dead straight, so unless he wants to really cheat this drawing the cue ball, you may end up seeing him play the 7 cross side. Fortunate again, really, unless he loses the cue ball, which he did not.
Feels as though he's being unduly delayed.
Oh, he missed his mark there, but also that shows you that if you have to play some speed, especially drawing the ball, it seems, these pockets will tighten up quickly.
Now the pot success of 88%, you would think, sounds impressive, but it isn't. Not for him, nowhere near.
No, especially, you know, he's had some nice starters, right? So once these guys get starters, that's where that percentage really stays really high. Now, if you're faced with some very difficult starting shots, well, you know, that percentage can fall, but usually 90+% for sure for these guys. That's the standard. Nice shot there. And he's looking at the cross corner bank. Not a bank you would see players go at very often, the cross corner bank, when you're past the side, unless you have some safety in mind, unless there's a bit of a two-way.
Well, I teased the possibility of it being the beginning of the end earlier in the rack. You have to think this really is the beginning of the end here now.
That was a much more settled stroke, and I was kind of curious about that one just because it's been a bit of the longer shots that I think Carlo has gotten a bit quick. Is he going to draw back? Just pound this out a little bit. Nice shot.
The defending champion is off and running again. Dalibor Nikolin, the tennis coach from Florida, has been beaten 9-1 by the great Filipino pool player, Carlo Biado. And it took just over an hour for that victory to be achieved. So what were the main stats of the match? What was the tale of the tape? Well, we saw